You're listening to The Bible Guys, a podcast where a couple of friends talk about the Bible in fun and practical ways.
Hey, welcome to The Bible Guys.
This is a good day.
We are having a great day.
He's Chris, and I'm Jeff.
Yes, and we are The Bible Guys. And so, and there's other Bible guys that come on the show every once in a while.
But we're the Bible Guys.
Ooh,
The Bible Guys.
I thought it was the.
Although.
Didn't we just talk about humility yesterday?
Yeah. Well, that was yesterday. we got that one done. We mastered it. We mastered the humility thing. We're moving on.
So great.
Well, actually, Wesley Woods, when he was on, he said it was the Platinum Edition.
Platinum Edition.
Yeah.
That's great.
So,
but
funny.
to his credit, he said you were Diamond Edition.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Exactly. Yeah. After he realized he overstepped it.
Well,
So today is everybody's favorite segment.
I don't know about that.
Oh, it is. It is. We get so many card and letter and email about it that people get so excited about what made you mad. Actually, last week's really got people going.
Oh, because it was about driving.
Yeah. The one that aired last week on Friday was about driving, and you're just mad about bad drivers.
Well, it was the right of way. It's learn your traffic.
Yeah. Right of ways.
Yeah. Learn what yield sign means.
That's right. So, and people were really with you on that one. So this week, it's what made Chris mad this week.
Yes. Yeah.
And I have to tell our listeners, they don't know this. Usually when we say, oh, hey, the next segment is what made Chris mad this week, he goes, I know. It's that fast. You don't have to think twice about it. You just know.
Well,
but this one, you had to get up and go for a walk?
Well, I went to the restroom.
Yeah. So I was being delicate on that one. And so you took a few minutes to think about this one.
Yes, I did.
Yeah. So
well, because
this one...
here's a confession. You know the reason why?
Why?
Because I had two.
So it wasn't like, oh, I know. It's like, ooh, which one?
Yeah. It was which one?
Okay.
It was which one?
Okay.
So I'll save the other one for next week.
That's fabulous.
Because so this one I'm mad for the world.
Yes. Thank you, Chris.
Because all of them are I'm mad for the world.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Okay. So
you are mad vicariously for the rest of us.
Yes. And by the way, I'm going to announce on the front end of this that not everybody is going to agree with me.
Oh wow.
Okay, because everybody can be
it's
like
controversial.
Yeah, well, everybody can agree, like, hey, yeah, if you're going to drive, learn the rules of the road, right?
Yeah.
Like, people can get behind that, and it makes people frustrated. But I have a strong feeling that my opinion on this matter is going to be probably like 30% of everybody's opinion, and 70% will be like, I'm not sure I agree with that. But yet, I still feel strongly enough to give my opinion so that maybe perhaps people should consider what I'm saying.
Yes. Okay. Well, thank you, Chris.
Okay. Yeah.
Thank you.
So
we're talking about generous.
Yes.
Magnanimous.
Yes. So
Thank you.
That's me. I'm so humble. So when I was I was driving in my car yesterday, and it was a very hot day yesterday,
Yes.
right?
Yeah, it was.
It was a very hot day.
For Michigan.
There was a guy walking on the side of the road. Actually, I think he was jogging, but he would come up to an intersection. I think maybe, you know how like when you jog, sometimes you're like, okay, I'm going to walk for this half a mile. I think that was him because he had headphones in and all this kind of stuff. So I think he was a runner, but he was walking because he was not fit.
Yes.
Okay.
That makes sense.
It makes sense. But this guy did not look good, but he did not have a shirt on. And to be quite honestly, he was assaulting all the people at that intersection and subjecting us to look at his torso.
And
And
you didn't have to.
There's no choice.
There was no missing it.
There's no missing it. And so I thought, and there's just, my thought to myself was this. I've seen runners who run with their shirt off. And they have earned the right to take their shirt off in public. In fact, when they run by, I go,
Good job.
good for you.
Good job, buddy.
Good for you. You have earned the right. You are fine, right? This guy
was in the process of earning the right.
Well, nope. I would argue and say he's a far way away from.
He's beginning.
Your intention does not equal.
You have not yet earned.
You have not yet earned. Okay, you're on your way to earning.
Yes.
But you have not earned the right to take your shirt off and assault everybody.
I see.
Right?
Yeah. So it's offensive.
To be honest, I'm like, why would you subject everybody to that? Why would you like? There's not a listen.
He's feeling good about himself.
this is where I think people are going to disagree with me.
Yeah.
Because people are like, hey, man, leave the guy alone. Poor guy. He's out there. He's trying to do what's right. He's probably running. I don't know if he was running. I'm assuming he was running. So if the guy was hot, let him take his shirt off. I disagree. I say plan better. I'm like, go out and get a shirt that is breathable and stop subjecting people to that, because there isn't a person that, and I don't mean to be rude, but there isn't a person that probably looked over and probably didn't go, ooh, right? And I'm just like, hey, you have a responsibility for your own body.
Okay.
And it's like, hey, if you have worked really hard, you have earned the right to be shirtless. Other than that, wait until you've earned the right.
Okay. Wow. All right.
Now,
well, thank you, Chris.
Now, let me just ask you.
For being mad.
Let me ask you personally. Do you agree with that in general? Or are you under the, like...
Oh, I'm going to go one step further. I don't really see the need to take off your shirt to go running.
Oh.
Yeah. There was a dude a couple days ago was jogging as we were driving, and he looked like a statue, like a Greek god.
Like he was amazing.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Like 2% body fat kind of guy.
Oh, yeah.
His muscles have muscles. He's just running.
Yeah.
Glistening.
Yeah.
Sweating. And I looked at that and went, peacock.
Oh, yeah. So the opposite could be true.
Yeah. It was the other way. Because it wasn't that hot. Like 4 days ago, it was like 70.
Right.
71. He didn't take his shirt off. He just did. I don't know the need.
But when you run,
I don't
get
see
hot.
Sure.
Yeah.
You're hot anyways. The reality is keeping a shirt on and sweating into your shirt is going to keep you cooler than letting it all evaporate.
Right.
It's true.
It's
true.
It's just science.
It's just showing off. It's just showing off. Yeah.
Okay. So you have to.
I don't see the need.
You have to be medium.
I don't see the need to take off your shirt to mow the lawn.
You have to be fit, but not sculpted.
No, I don't see the need to go running with your clothes off. I just don't see that.
Yeah.
I don't see the need on either side.
Because you know what it is. It is a public forum. You're out in the public. If you're on a sidewalk on a busy intersection, you are in public.
Yeah.
Right. Mm-hmm. And so it's like, do public things. Right. When you're in private, do private things.
Yeah. I have a high sense of modesty, anyways. Right.
Yeah. I do too. Actually.
So in the days I was super fit, or in the current days, both ways, I still took the same tact, and that was, hey, this is mine, not everybody else's, and I don't need to put it in everybody's face.
Yeah. Well, there's something to be said for that too, right? Yeah. So there it is for me.
Well, thank you, Chris, for being irate for all the rest of us.
Yeah, and if you're a person who, by the way, just loves to do what that guy was doing the other day, just reconsider. Yeah. That's all.
Unless you've earned it.
That's all I'm asking you to do. Just reconsider.
Okay. Well,
hey, you'll eventually get there, pal.
Yeah.
Right? Just not yet.
Or maybe that's not the goal should be the goal of your life.
Right. Which
to go
is
running without your shirt on.
Which is your
value of that.
Which is your contribution, right? Yeah. Your contribution is just
why?
Why?
You don't need to do it.
Why? That's great. Okay, we need to move on.
Yes.
So, hey, by the way, speaking of moving on.
Yes. And working hard.
And working hard. Oh, wait, no, those are two different things.
Okay.
I was going to say, speaking of moving on, Jesus is telling people to move on in this story.
Is he?
He's telling people to move on to the next group of people, and the next group of people, and the next group of people.
Oh, okay.
And so that's what we're going to be reading out today.
That was a rough transition.
It really was.
Okay, that's the goal. That's the goal.
Well, I made it up. I started it. Have you ever seen Michael Scott in The Office, where he says, sometimes I form a sentence and I don't know where it's going until
I get there.
Until I get there.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we are in Matthew chapter 20, and we're going to read 1 through 16. And this has always been a challenging parable, I think, for people.
Yeah, I believe so. Yep.
And so Jesus says, for the kingdom of heaven is like the landowner who went out early one morning to hire workers for his vineyard. And he agreed to pay the normal daily wage and sent them out to work. And at 9 o'clock in the morning, he was passing through the marketplace, saw some people standing around doing nothing, so he hired them, telling them he would pay them whatever was right at the end of the day. And so they went to work in the vineyard, and at noon and again at 3 o'clock, he did the same thing. At 5 o'clock that afternoon, he was in town again and saw some more people standing around. He asked them, why haven't you been working today? And they replied, because no one hired us. The landowner told them, then go out and join the others on my vineyard. That evening, he told the foreman to call the workers in and pay them, beginning with the last workers first. And when those hired at 5 o'clock were paid, each received a full day's wage. When those hired first came to get their pay, they assumed they would receive more, but they, too, were paid a day's wage. When they received their pay, they protested to the owner, "Those people worked only in 1 hour, and yet you've paid them just as much as you paid us, who worked all day in the scorching heat." He answered one of them, "Friend, I haven't been unfair. Didn't you agree to work for all day for the usual wage? Take your money and go. I wanted to pay this last worker the same as you. Is it against the law for me to do what I want with my money? Should you be jealous because I'm kind to others? So those who are last now will be first then, and those who will be first will be last." Wow. There you go.
Yeah. So I love how God doesn't pretend to be fair.
Right.
Right. So my saying is God is incredibly unfair in our favor.
Yeah.
Or to our favor.
Yeah.
Which is grammatically correct. Is it both? I think it's both.
He's radically unfair to our favor.
Is it to or in?
To.
It's to.
To our favor. In our favor, it's both.
It's both. Yeah, I think it's both. So bottom line is I love.
Unless you were the first worker.
What do you mean?
You're just assuming that you're the one that got in at the 5 o'clock hour. What if you were the first one?
Oh no! What I'm saying is God is fair to the first person. Mm-hmm. But what I'm saying is like.
But you said he's radically unfair to our favor. He was just fair to the first ones.
Yeah, it is. He's unfair, meaning fairness is not a value that God necessarily.
Well, there's a famous preacher that tells his kids fairness ended at the garden.
Yes, yes. Well, the last thing that I think that we want is for God to be fair.
Yeah, fair is.
Because if you got what you deserved,
that's right.
You would not be happy.
That's right.
Right. So God gives us mercy and grace. Mercy spares us, which means God's not giving us what we deserve.
Yeah.
But grace is actually favor, right?
Yeah.
Which means that God's giving us what we don't deserve.
That's right.
Right? So God's not giving us what we deserve, and he's giving us what we don't deserve, mercy and grace. And so the last thing we want is for God to be fair. And so that's why I say he's unfair. He wasn't unfair to the guy who worked all day, but he was incredibly unfair to the favor of the guy who only worked 1 hour.
Right.
Right? So fairness is not something that God holds across the board. And so, God is just, right? But fairness across the board, hey, that's fair compared to the other guy, because that's what fairness is, isn't it? Fairness is supposed to be what people deserve compared to other people, because that's how it's measured. And so I think that in the end, I love how the Bible goes out of its way. Jesus actually goes out of its way to tell a story, and he actually gives very, very, very specific detail.
Yeah.
He creates such a dramatic story that everybody's following along.
Yeah.
He says, in the first hour, which would have been 6 a.m., right? He hires somebody, and at the beginning of the morning, and
he goes walking by Home Depot. There's a bunch of guys out there waiting for a
yeah.
Hey, I'll pay you a day's wage.
Yeah, that's right. And he says, I'll give you, and the day's wage that he chose to choose is a denarius, which was a fair day's wage as given by Moses in Deuteronomy. But it's also the same wage that the Roman soldiers would have paid somebody for a day's wage.
Right.
So a denarius was a very fair wage. So he even uses, it would be equivalent for us to say, at the end of the day, I'm going to give you X amount of dollars, right? I'm going to give you $15 an hour or $20 an hour times 8 hours, right? Whatever. So that's what Jesus was doing here.
So he didn't pay him by the hour.
Correct. He paid him by the day.
Right. He paid him by the day.
That's right.
And so, because that's a very important distinction.
That's right.
Otherwise, the guys who worked 1 hour and the guy who worked 10 hours, the guy who worked 10 hours had a fair argument.
Right.
But it wasn't an hourly agreement. It was just at the beginning, if you work for me today, I'll give you $1,000. Okay, great.
Right. That's right.
Right.
I was trying to process math in my mind.
Yeah.
Right? Like, what's
or
a
whatever.
fair...
I'll give you $200 if you work for me today. Okay, great. Then the next guy, he comes back and goes, I'll give you $200 if you work for me.
Well, no, he didn't say
He
that.
didn't even say how much.
He just said, I'll give you what's fair.
Give you what's fair. Yeah.
What's right.
Mm-hmm.
And so, by the way, that's also another good point. Jesus tells the story masterfully.
Yeah.
Because he starts off with a denarius, and then it goes a few hours later, a few hours later, a few hours later, and then finally it's 1 hour left. Right. So we're talking 5 p.m. is what he grabbed the last guy to work an hour, or the last group of people. So Jesus masterfully says, and I'll give you what's right. I'll give you what's right. I'll give you what's right. 1 hour left. I'll give you what's right. So everybody listening is saying, oh, well, what's right is, 1/12 of what the first guy was making. Right. That's what people are thinking.
Yes.
And then at the end, and then I love how he starts with the last guy first.
Yeah.
Right. So the guy's only worked 1 hour gets the full day's wage.
It was a big twist. What?
Yes. And I just love it because...
And then you start doing the math going, oh, the next guy's going to love getting paid because he's going to get paid a fortune.
Right.
Overtime.
And by the way, this is a parable that starts off by him saying the kingdom of heaven is like, which means this is how God treats people spiritually, the way that this vineyard would have treated them monetarily and physically. So I think that what he's saying is he's saying the same thing that Jesus demonstrated later on to the criminal on the cross. So he says, God, remember me in your kingdom, the criminal says. And he says, I tell you the truth, today you're going to be with me in paradise. So how does that guy get to go to heaven?
Right.
When somebody who serves their entire life gets to go to heaven, both of them get heaven. Yeah. And so the guy who serves...
sometimes people will be kind of frustrated with that.
Right.
When they start learning about grace, they're saying, are you telling me that if a murderer accepts Jesus right before they're executed, that they're going to go to heaven?
Right.
That doesn't seem right.
Correct.
How many times have you heard that phrase?
Yes. Well, that's
They're
exactly
horrified by this idea, and that's the point Jesus is making.
Yeah.
So I think it's interesting. The amount that was going to be paid to everybody had been predetermined already.
Right.
Right? This wealthy man, this businessman, this landowner had already determined what he's going to pay everybody. He didn't tell everybody, but he had already determined it. And so what he's highlighting here is the guy who comes in 1 hour or the guy who works 12 hours, you're going to get paid what's fair. The guy who works 12 hours, you're going to get paid what is normal. The guy who squeaks in at the end, I'm going to just be generous to you. And it's okay. It's okay that I choose to be generous to you. Everybody's getting the same. I'm going to treat everybody the same in that the payment is predetermined and I'm going to be good to you. And then when the other guy complains, what he's saying is, for those of you who come from a deeply religious background and your family has been deeply religious for generations, you're going to get the same heaven that the guy who came from a whole long line of pagans and lived a sinful life, and then at the end of his life comes to faith in Christ. You're going to get the same, right? Your pedigree, your experiences, all those things. When it comes to God's grace, he gives to whom he wishes, as he wishes, and there's not going to be able to be any complaint. And so his defense of his own behavior was, it's not against the law for me to just be generous to whom I want to be generous. I can do whatever I want to with my money. And that's God establishing he's God and we're not.
Right. So do you want to know what I believe is the most overlooked verse in this parable?
Which one?
It is verse number 6, where he says about the 11th hour, he went out and found still others standing around. And then here it is. He asked them, why have you been standing around here all day doing nothing?
Oh, yeah.
And then he says, because no one has hired us. So there's a reason why Jesus included that in the story. Yeah. Because that's significant as well.
There's a compassionate angle to this.
Well, they're the forgotten.
Yeah.
They're the overlooked.
Yeah.
They're the unreached. Yeah. Right? They're the unreached. They're the ones who haven't been found. They're the lost.
Yeah.
And so here they are. You know, he goes out and he says he still finds somebody at the last minute. And then he asks the question, why aren't you working? Well, because there's a good answer to that. No one has asked us. No one has approached us. So what they're really saying is, like, we've not been given the gospel yet. We've not been, nobody's invited us. Nobody's told us about the truth. Nobody has invited us into their vineyard, hence kingdom, right? And so it's like there's this brilliant storytelling and comparison that gives, a reason why he's generous, because he's found these people that no one has found before. Yeah. And so it's just a beautiful insight. And so, when God tells us to go out to the highways and the hedges, and God, says the harvest is plenty and the workers are few, and God says, how beautiful are the feet that go, when God tells us to go out to the ends of the earth, I mean, all those commands, it's focusing on these people who've not yet heard. They need to be invited. And so God's generosity is that everybody deserves to, be invited into the kingdom.
Yeah.
So this Sunday, I just had mentioned about Heritage on the Hill yesterday, we're about to teach the prodigal son.
Right.
And the prodigal son is somebody who, ends up getting the fatted calf and getting welcomed home and getting invited back into the family. And then what is it? The older faithful son who had been there the whole time says, why does he get that? Right? Like he doesn't deserve that. That's not fair.
Right.
And then Jesus says, he was lost.
Yeah, it's the same basic idea, isn't it?
It's exactly the same thing. Yeah. And so I love the fact that God is not fair. God is just. God is compassionate. And the last thing that you and I want God to be is fair, because we don't want what we deserve. We want God to continue to give us what we don't deserve, which is his mercy and his grace.
Earlier, or in the book of Luke, Jesus tells a similar story about a servant who goes out. It's in Luke 17. He goes out and works all day in the field. And then when he comes home, he immediately goes into the kitchen and begins prepping dinner for his boss. And there's kind of this amazement that, wow, what? And the response was, his reply was, we are unworthy servants and we've only done our duty. And Jesus said, listen, when you really understand God's grace, so he's teaching about humility, he's teaching about God's grace. This passage, he's talking about God's grace. When we come to the understanding that we've only done our duty.
Right.
I don't deserve any special treatment. I just did my duty. Then what happens is we stop comparing our behavior to other people's behavior. God's not measuring him by somebody else's behavior.
Right.
God's grace is not determined by my behaviors. God's grace is determined by his goodness, period.
Right.
And so I want to measure how much I deserved God's grace versus how much that guy doesn't deserve as much grace.
Right.
Does God love everybody?
Gosh,
if I'm going to be a good Christian, I'm going to say, yeah, God loves everybody.
That's so good.
If I'm going to be a good Christian, I'm going to say, sure, everybody deserves God's grace. They just don't deserve as much grace as I do.
Right.
It's a shocking thing to discover that God loves my enemies as much as he loves me.
So God's grace has nothing to do with you.
Right. It has nothing to do with you. Never did.
Although it has everything to do with you, right?
Well, you're the recipient of his grace.
You're the object.
Yes.
You're the recipient.
Yeah.
But God's grace has everything to do with him.
Only because he's good.
That is so good.
And so he's predetermined the value of his grace, and it's not dependent on your works.
We need to say that Sunday.
Right. He's predetermined the value of his grace, and it's not determined on your works. That's what's happened, and that's the story here.
Yeah.
The guy who worked 12 hours, the guy who worked 1 hour, the value of God's grace was his determination, not the value of their work.
So perhaps a great way to conclude this parable is this: as you're trying to piece together, who is who in the story, right? Obviously, God is the vineyard owner, right? And so if you ask him the question, who is the 11th hour worker? You know what the answer is? We all are.
All of us.
All of us. Yeah. We all are the 11th hour worker. Right. Because you may say, well, no. I'm in the category of the guy who works all day. No. We all get more than we deserve.
Yeah.
Every single one of us
that's right.
get more than we deserve. So we all are the 11th hour worker. And so when we picture ourselves like that and not like the guy who's worked all day, then we understand that, God can then give as much grace to anybody that he wants to. He can save the guy on death row because he has saved me. Right. And so and so I'm not going to compare myself to the guy in death row. I'm going to compare myself to myself.
And this changes my perspective on what I'm doing for God. I'm not doing God a favor.
Right.
I'm just doing my duty. Right. That's all.
Yeah.
When I serve God, I'm not helping him out.
Yeah.
I'm not like, oh, now he really is impressed with me. Right. Instead, we're just doing our duty. And so this is what Jesus is trying to drive. You go do your work. He's going to be good to you regardless.
That's great.
Of what you feel like you've earned.
Oh, that's great. Well, hey, we will pick up in this awesome series of What If Jesus Had a Podcast on Monday.
Yeah.
And we certainly hope you join us. Hey, have a great weekend, and we'll see you next time on The Bible Guys.